We are going to be in Matthew 6, 1 through 4. That's where we're going to be. We're going to be talking about kind of a subject that I guess pops up in our daily lives pretty often, in my opinion. And it's this subject of integrity or doing the right thing for the right reason. Now, when I look at my chapter in my Bible, it labels it as giving to the needy. Jesus is going to talk about giving to the needy, but there's a lot more implications to what he says than just giving to the needy. In fact, I would argue that giving to the needy is the example he uses. It's not necessarily his main subject or point that he's talking about. Instead, what he really seems to be talking about is this idea of when we do things, we should do them for the right reason and not for the reason of like gaining attention, right? It should not be, we should not be doing good or righteous things so that other people give us credit. We should be doing it because we're called to live godly lives or because it's the right thing to do, right? It would be really easy, or at least I think a lot of us think this. A lot of us hope that when we have, y'all are gonna have to bear with me with this mic today. It's being real finicky, so if I have to move it, it may, attack me or anything. But a lot of us would like to think that when we hang out with people, when they're nice to us, when they do nice things for us, when they are polite, when they seem to love and to care about us, it would be very, very beneficial that they're doing that because they're genuine and they actually love and care about us. The problem is, unfortunately, we live in a society and a culture where that is not always the case, right? I think we've all had somebody who seemed like a really good person. They seemed like they were our friends. They seemed like they were helping us out. And then it's almost like one day they just decided that we weren't really worth their time or they didn't really value us. And so, they talk about us behind our back or that, whatever it may be, that sort of betrayal. And then we're like, well, that person's not really who I thought they were, right? And so we have this thing where people will literally do nice things, good things, not for the benefit of others, but for themselves, right? It's beneficial to them. Think politician. Now, I'm not trying to get into politics, but think politician-wise. I'm going to kiss babies, but I'm going to make sure to do it publicly, right? So that everyone sees me being a good person, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, that happens in our daily lives. I could not remember if I told this story before, by the way, because I do the Bible study on Wednesday night as well. So I was like, did I tell it there? I figure if you can't, or if I can't remember if I told the story, maybe you can't either. So I'm just going to go with it. But I was helping out at my wife's field day. She likes me to come on field day or on field trip day. And she likes me to be a volunteer, basically. And she likes it because I get to meet the kids, I get to see everybody. And so this year I was doing that, and the bus was full, though. I think we were going to the museum. That's what they did for a few years. We were going to a museum, but the bus was full. So some of us volunteers carpooled. We got in a car. One of the ladies was driving, and we just drove. I was in the back seat. They were up front, so I wasn't really a part of the conversation necessarily. But they got on the subject of helping people, okay? They got on the idea of like doing the right thing or being nice to others. And one of the ladies, this is what she said. She said that basically she believed in karma, right? So she did nice things for others because, you do nice things and then the universe rewards you with nice things, like that kind of thing, right? Which honestly is not it's not outrageous. A lot of people kind of have this mindset that we should treat others nice because when it comes my turn to need some help, I want others to treat me nice, right? Like I'm going to treat other people the way I want to be treated, right? That's pretty standard. But she went a step further, okay? She went even a step further and said, this is what she said, now not exact words, but this is the paraphrase. She basically said that sometimes she doesn't even really want to help that person, or she doesn't even really she doesn't really even care, but she's not gonna say no because then bad things might come her way. So sometimes she literally only helps people, or she only does the right thing or is nice to them. She only does it because she expects the same treatment in return later. So she takes it a step further to where literally the script is flipped, right? When we do nice things, when we do good things, when we help somebody out, when we care for them, it should be about them. That's kind of where that motivation should be. But it can get so twisted and so flipped that actually I'm going to do nice things for you so that nice things happen to me. Now everything's about me again, right? I'm the one who benefits from doing something for you, right? It makes me think of like those Hallmark movies where like the really nice guy takes a girl on a date to like a homeless shelter, and then they find out like he takes all the girls to the homeless shelter. I'm going to get that word out. And it's this idea that like, well, he doesn't really care about the homeless people. He's benefiting himself by making himself look good, right? Like, once again, it's that inward turn. Suddenly, I'm no longer doing things because I care and I love other people. I'm not doing it for them. I'm suddenly doing it because I love myself and I want myself to benefit from this. And this is what Jesus is going to get onto. Specifically, he's going to get on to these Pharisees and these Sadducees. Because we talked about this last week, that they have this, they knew the commands, they knew the laws, but they had gotten them down to such a T, like down to a T, that basically they were using them for their own benefit now. Like, I'm going to follow the law, but I'm going to do it in a way in which I also reap benefits from doing it, as opposed to doing it just because I'm trying to be obedient to God. And so Matthew chapter 6, verse 1, this is the first verse where it starts off. This is what Jesus says. It says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven." So first things I want to point out with this first verse, I want to make sure it's not misconstrued. I think it can be easily misconstrued if taken out of context of what he's trying to say. Jesus says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them." Jesus is not saying, don't practice your righteousness in front of others. That's not what he's saying, okay? It is perfectly okay to practice righteousness in front of other people, all right? Some people have this idea or feel that like, well, if I'm practicing or if I'm doing good things where everybody can see, then odds are I'm probably, I'm not doing them for the right reasons. Or when I do nice things for other people, I shouldn't get any reward or credit for doing that. That's not true. Sometimes you do nice things. Sometimes you do righteous acts and other people happen to see it and you get rewarded for that. It happens sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem that Jesus has is he's saying, be careful of doing righteous acts in front of people for the purpose of being seen by them, all right? If your motivation for doing this righteous thing is so that other people will congratulate you, now we have an issue, right? That's what we need to be careful of doing. So it's not about this idea of, well, I can't do righteous things in front of other people and then get rewarded. No, sometimes that happens. Sometimes, people get rewarded on the news or they do heroic acts. There's nothing wrong with patting another person on the back or being congratulated for doing the right thing. That's fine. But if that motivation is, I'm going to do this in front of others so that somehow I receive credit, once again, we're in that selfish mindset, right? It's all about me. When we do that, that's when we need to be careful. And Jesus follows up by saying, if you do it in that way, if you do it with that kind of motivation where you are the focal point, he says, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. And I want to make this clear. He's not saying that if you do a righteous act in secret, that you're guaranteed a reward, okay? That's not what he's saying in this right here. He's not saying you're guaranteed a reward, and so you should do it quietly because you'll get this reward from God. He's saying instead that if you do it in such a way where you're trying to gain attention from what you did, you definitely won't receive a reward for that, right? Like your motivation is wrong, so there's no reward for doing those things. We talked about this last week, that even in the Mosaic law, the law given to Moses, the commands given to Moses, there's a heart to the law, right? The law is written in such a way where sometimes it's not entirely specific or it's not entirely like you have to do this exact way. And it's written that way because there's a heart part of it too. Your heart has to be in the right place when you do it. And this is one of those things. They were told in the Old Testament, in Leviticus, Deuteronomy, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Well, now it's become a show. I'm going to show other people that I'm loving my neighbor. And so Jesus is pointing out, yeah, but your motivation's wrong now. The heart behind the law has been lost. You're just living out the actions, right? And so he's pointing out, just because you do the action doesn't mean you're going to get rewarded by God, because your motivation, your heart is not in it the way that it should be. Verse 2, he continues and he says, so when you give to the needy, that's why I said I think this is his example, right? He's just kind of pointing out, as an example, if you give to the needy, so when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. So he's pointing out that, kind of taking a shot or a jab at the Pharisees, at the people working at the synagogues, that when they go give to the needy, they use trumpets to let everybody know what's going on, right? This actually reminds me, I don't know if you hate it, I hate it, I can't stand it, it's like a worst nightmare. But when as we enter this holiday season, you always get those stores that when you go to the register, if you donate some money, they got those bells. You know what I'm talking about? And they just ring them loud for everybody to hear, or the cashier will shout something. And I'm like, I'll literally pay you not to do that. Please don't do that. Like, I will give extra if it means you won't single me out in front of everybody, right? But that's kind of what it reminds me of, is like they're going around with trumpets, or they're going around with some kind of bells or noise, right? And like they give to the needy, and everybody was like, woo, we gave to the needy. And they're getting the attention. They're letting everybody know that they did the right thing. Hey, look at me. Look what I did. We even have a problem now on social media with that. We have a lot of problems on social media, but this is another one where people like have literally gotten caught where they'll like they will have a video in which they found, some puppies in like a grocery bag and like on, in a ditch, and then lo and behold, a few weeks later, you find out they were the ones that put the puppies in the bag, in the ditch, so that they could make a video about finding them, right? Like, it's this idea of like getting credit for doing something good or doing something that's noteworthy or righteous. And again, it's that selfish inclination. I need to get something from it. I need everyone to know that I did the right thing. And that's going to get me attention. It's going to get me reputation. I'm going to be admired. Like, this is what I'm after. I'm not after helping anybody. I'm not after doing the right thing because I love somebody. I'm not after that. I'm after my own selfish gain. This is the problem he's having with them. And then he follows up by saying this. He says, truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. All right, and when I first read this, it was a little weird to me. Like, what is he talking about? Because it kind of sounds like, it almost sounds like a bitter statement, like when we tell kids, well, those bullies, they'll get what's coming to them, right? It kind of feels that way, like, well, they already got their reward. Don't you worry about it, right? But as I kept reading it, and, obviously, when I write these talks, I have no doubt that God's trying to teach me the right things to say. He's constantly informing me. And so here's actually how it played out in my mind. What I kind of came to as a conclusion for myself personally is that I don't think he's making a jab. I don't think he's saying like, well, they already got their reward, so don't worry about them. I think what he's really saying is like just stating truth here, right? When they do righteous acts so that they can get attention and they get reputation and they want to be looked up to, right? That's what they get. That's the reward they were after, was this attention, this admiration. And so that's what they got. They got attention and admiration from the world. That's what they were after. That's the result they got. The problem with this is that the things that we get from the world are temporary. It's only going to last for so long, and then they have to do another good thing, right? So they can get more attention. And it just keeps going on and on. And there's kind of this idea that, yeah, but if you do it in the right way, you do it how you're supposed to, you do it because you love and you care for that person, your reward will be from God. And we know that your reward from God is eternal. It's not going to go away, right? So he's kind of saying, truly I tell you, they've already got what they wanted. Like if that's what you're after, if you're after some temporary recognition, they got it. But there could be so much more if you do it in the way that we're meant to do it, which is to just do it because we love and care for other people. And he kind of follows that up in verse 3 and 4. Verse 3, he says, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Right? So this idea that do it quietly, don't make it a show, and if you do it in that way, then God sees what you do and he will reward you for that. Now, let me make it clear, the reward should not be the motivation, because then we get it all twisted up again, right? Suddenly we're doing things because we're going to get something out of it. The motivation should be that my heart loves and cares for this other person. I'm going to do this righteous act, right? And God sees that righteous act and he will reward me for the heart that I have. That's kind of how that functions. But it kind of lines up with what he says is they already got their reward. Your reward can be from God. It can be eternal by doing it the right way. But those people who are after recognition, admiration, they already got their reward. It's over. It's done. It's temporary. It won't be back. And I think that's what he's trying to kind of point towards in saying that, truly I tell you, they already have their reward. They've already gotten what they wanted. They're not getting anything else. Does that make sense a little bit? Then he says this in verse 3, he kind of says this weird phrase. I don't exactly know what to call it. He says, try to give in such a way that your left hand doesn't know what your right, that your right hand, is it left? I always get it mixed up. Yeah, your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing. I practiced it one whole time where I said the right hand didn't know what the left hand, it's the whole thing. Anyway, he says, do these things in such a way where your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing. And it's like, what in the world does that mean? Okay, because I've never done, my hands just don't do stuff on their own, okay? Like, so what does he mean by this? It reminded me, one example I thought of in my head is when I was in music school, I was a vocal major, and they make you take piano. If you've ever tried to play like a real song on piano, your right hand is doing something totally different than your left hand, and they're all trying to do it at the same beat and timing. It's impossible, okay? I don't know how piano players do it, but my teacher would get mad at me because I play certain parts too fast or too slow, and so I would have to plan it out. Before I sat down, I'd have to sit down and plan out, okay, guys, this is what you're gonna do, okay? Like, I need you to do this, and you to do this, and we'd have to coordinate to make it work, right? It almost makes me think like Jesus saying, like, don't plan it. Don't plan how you're going to help other people or be righteous. And that we're looking for like it to be natural, where I do it so effortlessly or I do it so casually that my right hand does it, my left hand didn't even know about it. I hope I got that right. I can't even remember. But my right hand did it and my left hand doesn't even know about it, right? Because I'm just doing it. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it out. There's no manipulation going on. I just did the righteous act that I'm supposed to do. I was working this week at the nursing facility. I have a resident who needed a watch battery. Now, I promise y'all, I'm not telling this story so I can get pats on the back. I don't need any pats on the back, okay? I am just as messed up as everybody else. I just try to do the right thing when I can. So that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is it just happened to fit in with our man, the S's today, our sermon, and so it just made a decent illustration. So this resident needs a watch battery, so I take his watch. His watch has got like a stretchy band, but it's like metal also. It's a cheap watch. But anyway, I grabbed the watch from him so I could replace the battery, and his band is, the metal's all covered in like green gunk, okay? That's the only way I can describe it. There's really no good word for it. But that's what it is. If you've ever worn like that cheap gold jewelry or gold plated or, like the faux gold plated or the silver plated, sometimes when you wear them on your skin long enough, they get like, skin stuff on them and bacteria and they start to corrode, and that's what causes that green gunk to be all over it, right? And so I grabbed the watch, I grabbed the band, and so I decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead and clean the watch too. One, because I don't like to hold watches that are nasty. Two, because I was like, well, I'll help him out and I'll just clean it because it seems old. And so I got like a cup of vinegar. If you've never done that before, it's really effective. You just throw the band in some vinegar. I left it in there for like an hour. I got a toothbrush, and then I just kind of started scrubbing it, and I scrubbed the watch clean. No big deal, right? It took me like 45 minutes to an hour, right? But my thought while I was cleaning this was, why am I doing this? Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy taking things apart and sticking them back together. Like, I've done it with computers, video game consoles, other watches. I've done it with fishing reels. I do it all the time. I like to take it apart, stick it back together. So I was enjoying this. Like, I didn't have a problem with this, right? But then about 30 minutes in, when I'm supposed to be doing other work, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Who cleans a $15 watch for $45? Why? Wouldn't it have just been easier if I just got him a new watch, like helped him get a new watch? Like, wouldn't have that just been more effective? Like, why am I cleaning this? He may not even notice that I cleaned it. Like, what's the purpose of this? Why am I doing this? It seems like maybe I'm just wasting my time. And this was the longest solution to what could have been a very easy solution. And so, of course, if y'all didn't know how my mind works, I usually ask the question, then I answer it to myself. So then I answered myself, and I was like, why am I doing this? And the answer that I kind of came to was, you know what, honestly, I'm doing it because, he needed his watch cleaned. That's why. I don't know how many watches he has. I don't know if he wants to buy a new watch. I don't know if this watch holds any significance. All I know is that his watch was dirty, so I'm helping him out by cleaning it. Okay? Like, that's why I'm doing it, and I'm enjoying doing it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And so I finished cleaning his watch, right? My point is that sometimes, like, this idea of our right hand doing something before our left hand even knows what's going on, that's kind of an example of what that looks like. There was no planning. There was no weighing the scales of like, well, how much time is this going to take? Or there was no like, well, what can I get out of this? It was just, the watch was dirty. I'm just going to clean it. Like, I have the ability to do so I'm going to do it, right? That's all that went through my mind. And so it's almost like my right hand was doing something and my left hand didn't even know what was going on until later, right? And I think that's kind of what Jesus, at least in my opinion, is getting at here, is that we should be wanting to help people because our heart's in the right place, right? We want to care and love for other people, but there shouldn't be like this debating going on. There's this planning, this manipulation, this, well, how do I benefit, right? The idea is that we just do it. We just help before one hand even knows what the other hand is up to, right? In the same week, I think it was yesterday actually, me and my wife were at the store, and I'm not trying to drag her under the bus or anything. You can blame this all on me. But we were at the store, we walked out of the store, and I'm pretty sure, I'm about like, when I say pretty, I mean like 98%. I'm about 98% sure that there was a guy sitting outside and he yelled, do y'all have any extra money for food? But like my mind kind of got in the way, right? Because I was like, well, first off, we don't really have that normally in Wiley. That's not usually what people do. And he was also far away. Normally they'll kind of walk up to you and ask you. So I was like, did I really see that? And then, I told Emily about it. I knew he had some cash. And so then we kind of drove by and it really seemed like he was dressed in work clothes. So it was like, does he work there? Point is, we didn't give him anything. We could have. But I'll just say that it almost like one of those situations, instead of just defaulting to how can we help somebody out, we had to think about it too much, right? Like my mind got in the way. I had to evaluate and analyze everything before I was going to do something. Make sure it was, on the up and up before I did anything, right? Instead of just letting my right hand do something without my left hand knowing, I had to, we had to plan it out and come together to make it perfect, right? And I think sometimes that just happens to a lot of us, is that we over-evaluate it. We think about it a little bit too much. We wonder, how much time is it going to take? How much am I going to have to sacrifice? How much am I going to have to give up? Is this really beneficial for me? Am I really going to gain anything out of this? Right? And in all that thinking, we miss opportunities in which just to help and care for other people. I have one more story for you. I told you this subject just pops up a lot in our daily lives. I had a a coworker at the facility who works, and she works part-time, but she does a lot for the residents. She'll pop in the morning, she'll make them cookies, she'll hand out snacks and drinks, and, she knows a lot of them. I think she's been there about 2 years longer than I have, so like 7 years. And so she knows a lot of them. She talks to them. She helps with activities. So she's just really ingrained in them, right? With lunch, with dinner, she'll help, all that kind of stuff. And so she came to my office because she's very high-spirited. She's a very peppy person, which I'm not. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, you're so peppy, right? Please stop. And my dog's the same way. When I take my dog up there, she's like, hey, how's it going? And the dog's just like, whoa, this is too much in front of me. So anyway, she's very peppy like that. She's very high-spirited. Well, she came to my office, and she's just like, you can tell she's frustrated. She wanted to vent. So she's just like, it's just frustrating sometimes because I do all of these things for these residents. I get them all these things. I try to help them with all these things. I do activities with them. And because of their mental state, whether it be Alzheimer's, dementia, whether it be, schizophrenia, a stroke, whatever it is that they're struggling with, sometimes those residents they're still just ungrateful. They're disrespectful. They'll curse at you. They have bad attitudes sometimes. And so she's just kind of getting that same feeling we all get sometimes, where like I'm doing all these things for other people, but then I'm not getting a response back that I necessarily deserve, right? I deserve some thank yous, and instead of thank yous, I'm getting griping, right? And it doesn't feel good. And so it just so happened when she walked in my office that this passage was up on my computer because I was looking at it. And I just was like, he goes to church, and so I was like, well, here you go. This is just for you, Matthew 6. And I read it, and she's like, basically, she hears me read it, and she's like, you know what, you're right. Like, I'm supposed to be doing these things for the right things, not so I get pats on the back, but because I care about these residents. And she goes off on her day, right? And so I say all that to just say sometimes we just need a reminder. Sometimes we just need to remind ourselves as Christians, we live in a world, unfortunately, where we can do all the right things for other people. We can bend over backwards to help people. We can sacrifice and give up so many things. And we know in our heads, like, man, if somebody did that for me, this is how I would respond, right? But instead, we do all of those things, and then it feels like nobody ever says thank you, or nobody's patting us on the back, or even encouraging or uplifting us. And so we get that frustration, almost that bitterness of like, well, fine, then I'm not going to do it anymore, right? My mom did that on a Mother's Day one time. Apparently the whole family forgot. I didn't know this. Maybe I forgot. I have no idea. I just didn't know this. Well, she just decided, well, fine, I'm not going to be a mom for a day, so she just left the house. I mean, I totally get it. There's that frustration with it, right? Like there's a bitterness that comes or starts to kind of ingrain itself, like, I just keep doing these things and doing these things and doing these things, and yet it doesn't feel like I'm getting anything back for it. Like, doesn't anybody recognize me? And sometimes it's just good to remind ourselves that, man, God sees what we're doing. God recognizes our hearts, and he recognizes what we're doing. And this passage, Jesus specifically says, like, do it in secret. Do it in a way where no one knows what's happening. Do it quietly. Don't make a show of it. Like, your hands shouldn't even know that you did it, right? Like, do it so quietly and so secretly that no one knows about it, right? But notice that even when you do it that way, God recognizes that it happens. There's a purpose for you loving and taking care of other people, whether people ever see it or not, right? When I was cleaning that watch, I had a thought like, this is not going to end up on anybody's stats, right? Like this is not going in anybody's, I'm not going to die, and at my funeral, they're going to be like, he's the kind of guy who cleaned a watch. No one's going to know about it, okay? like that was a thought, but it's perfectly okay if nobody knows about it. God knows what you're doing. The point, the motivation behind helping other people is not so that we can gain. It's not so that we can somehow look amazing. It's so that we can reflect the love that Jesus Christ has on us. That's the point. It's because we love and care for them. That's the main one, right? We love and care for them. We want to help them out. And then the second reason is so that we can be a reflection of who Jesus Christ is for us. Right? Because how many times in our lives does Jesus Christ, does God lead us in a certain direction, do things for us, and we don't go out and shout it from the rooftops that he's the one who deserves the credit. We act as though we did something great, when in fact, we know for a fact that that Jesus Christ is the one working in our lives to cause these things, right? So how many times does he do things that no one hears about, but he does them for us because he loves us and he cares about us? Us doing those things, us doing righteous acts, the purpose of that is because our heart is in the right place and we're a reflection of the love that Jesus Christ has for us. That's the purpose of doing it. If we get rewarded for it, awesome. If we don't, okay. It really shouldn't matter. It should mostly matter that we're doing things for other people and there's no selfish motivation. There's no intention of trying to gain from ourselves. Otherwise, like Jesus calls them hypocrites. Like if I talk up here about not lying and then I go out and lie, that's what he's equating it to, is that they're pretending to care about other people when in fact they only care about themselves. He calls them hypocrites. They're faking it, and that's not what he wants from us. And so as a church, I think it's important to just mention that as a church, look, y'all, don't get me wrong. I know that we want more people to come to our church. We want more people to join our community at our church. But I want to be clear and make sure we know that that's not why we go and take care of our community around us. Don't get me wrong, if that's a product of it, great. But that is not our main motivation. Our main motivation is not so that the community comes and hangs out with us. That's why we're going to help people. We go out and we love and we care on the community around us because we as a church want to be a reflection of who Jesus Christ is in our lives. I don't need that. Look, if another person never comes to our church, if we never get the recognition for the things we do for people, if we never get any of the credit, that is totally fine by me. I hope it doesn't go that way, but that will not stop me from continuing to do the things we should be doing for other people. Our motivation is that we are a reflection of Jesus Christ in our community. He's placed this community in front of us as a church. And so it is our obligation to then go and love on them and care for them in the way that he does that for us. And if there's benefits from that, awesome, great. I'm not gonna complain. I love grace, okay? But if there's not, I'm not gonna stop doing it. He's placed Sachse in front of our church and we're gonna take care of him as though that's the case, right? We're gonna be a reflection of who God is in our lives. And that's kind of the hope. That's kind of the hope that I have when I think about doing like mission trips, when we, take up offerings, when we do anything as a church. That is ultimately my hope, is that in doing this for somebody, in loving and caring on them genuinely, the hope is that they soon learn who Jesus Christ is through what we've done. It always points back to him. See, that was the other main reason, or the main issue that the Pharisees and Sadducees had, is that when we follow the commands and the laws of God, it's not supposed to point back to us as the credit. We're supposed to live godly lives so then we can point back to God and show his glory, right? But when we make it about us, when we're the ones getting all the credit, you've missed the whole point. They were the ones getting all the credit. They weren't pointing any credit back to God, saying, look how great our God is. They were pointing at themselves, saying, look how great I am. And that's where they were missing it. When we do things like this for our community, when we do righteous acts for other people, when we take care of them, the point of it is not so that it can point back to us. It's not so it can necessarily point back to our church. It's so that it can point back to Jesus Christ, point back to God and show, look how great our God is and how well he takes care of us. Let me pray for us.